Welcome back to e-commerce psychology, where we dig into the research and give you the takeaways you actually need. Now, I bet you've experienced this yourself. You're scrolling online and bam, there it is. An old logo from your childhood or maybe a fashion style that takes you right back. And suddenly you're flooded with these warm, fuzzy feelings.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. We all know that feeling.
Well, that's the power of nostalgia. And today we're diving deep into how smart marketers use it to not only make us feel good, but to actually influence what we buy online.
It's more than just a trip down memory lane. It's become a real science.
Exactly. And to guide us through this, we've got a fantastic article titled Nostalgia Marketing, Emotional Anchoring for Conversion E-commerce Psychology.
Written by Mohammed Tufekkapan.
Yep, published just recently on March 11th, 2025.
So our mission today is to really understand how nostalgia is being used in e-commerce, why it works so well, and the psychology behind it all. We're going to cover a lot of ground, from defining what nostalgia marketing actually is in the world of online shopping, to looking at real-world examples of brands that are doing it right. And we'll even touch on how things like VR and AI might change the game in the future.
Sounds like a plan. Let's kick things off with the basics. When we say nostalgia marketing, it seems pretty self-explanatory. Marketing that makes us feel nostalgic. But is there a more nuanced definition, especially when we're talking about getting people to click that Buy Now button?
Yeah, there's definitely more to it than just making people reminisce about the good old days. At its core, nostalgia marketing is about intentionally using references to the past, like memories, trends, or even just cultural moments, to spark those positive feelings in online shoppers.
It's interesting, the word nostalgia itself has a pretty unique history.
Oh, absolutely. It actually started as a medical term.
Really?
Yeah, for a severe form of homesickness. And now it's this powerful marketing tool.
That's quite the journey, from a medical diagnosis to a marketing strategy. So how does this all work when it comes to selling online?
Well, it all boils down to tapping into that universal human experience, that shared history we all have. Whether it's a big cultural event that everyone remembers or a personal memory that brings a smile to your face, nostalgia has this unique ability to make us feel connected and happy.
And brands are picking up on that,
Oh, absolutely. E-commerce companies are finding that when they can weave these nostalgic threads into their online presence, it creates a deeper connection with customers, leading to more loyalty and ultimately more sales.
Because when you feel good about a brand, you're more likely to buy from them. So is this just a fad, or is nostalgia marketing here to stay?
It's definitely not a fad. The article mentions several studies that show e-commerce campaigns using nostalgia actually see a significant boost in customer engagement.
Which makes sense. I mean, I see it everywhere online, like retro games making a comeback, vintage clothing styles being all the rage. Even food companies are bringing back old snacks and drinks.
Exactly. It's popping up across so many different industries. And, with social media, these nostalgia cycles are getting even shorter.
Yeah, what was old a few years ago is suddenly trendy again.
Right. And what's really cool is that nostalgia can appeal to different generations. Something that triggers a core memory for someone in their 40s might seem cool and vintage to someone in their 20s.
That's fascinating. So, okay, it grabs our attention and makes us feel good, but let's talk business. Why are companies actually investing in this? Does that warm, fuzzy feeling actually translate to cold, hard cash?
Absolutely. The article digs into the idea of emotional anchoring, and it's pretty powerful stuff. When brands successfully use nostalgia to connect positive emotions to their products, they see a real jump in those all-important conversion rates.
Meaning people are more likely to click add to cart.
Exactly. And those online ads and marketing campaigns that just make you feel good? Research shows that people are way more likely to share those, so their reach grows organically.
Word of mouth marketing at its finest.
Exactly. And even more importantly, when a customer feels that positive connection with a brand, thanks to a little bit of nostalgia, they're simply more likely to make a purchase.
So it's not just about likes and shares. It's about driving sales.
Precisely. And that emotional connection gives brands a real edge in a crowded online world.
Makes sense. Now let's go a bit deeper. What's going on in our brains when we encounter these nostalgic campaigns?
This is where the psychology gets really fascinating. When we tap into a nostalgic memory, specific parts of our brain light up, particularly those associated with reward.
So we're literally getting a reward for feeling nostalgic.
In a way, yes. It triggers the release of dopamine, which is that feel-good chemical.
Ah, so there's a chemical reason why we enjoy these trips down memory lane.
Exactly. And what's really interesting for e-commerce is that these nostalgic triggers aren't just visual.
Even online.
Yeah. Think about a certain sound in a video ad, or even the way a product is described. All of these things can act as memory cues.
So it's like brands are creating a multisensory experience online.
Precisely. And for savvy e-commerce marketers, understanding these neural pathways is crucial. By strategically incorporating these triggers into their online content, they can tap into those positive feelings and increase the chances of a conversion.
It's like hacking into our brains to make us feel good and then buy something.
In a way, yes, but it's not all about dopamine. There are other emotional benefits that come into play.
Like what?
Well, nostalgia often gives us a sense of comfort and security. It reminds us of simpler times, which can be really appealing in the often chaotic world of online shopping.
I can definitely relate to that. Online shopping can be overwhelming sometimes.
Exactly. And even sharing nostalgic content online can create a sense of connection with others who remember the same things, reducing feelings of loneliness.
It's like a virtual community of shared memories.
Exactly. And believe it or not, nostalgia can even boost optimism. When we think about happy memories, it can actually make us feel more positive about the present and the future, making us more receptive to engaging with brands.
That's pretty amazing. So it's not just a trip down memory lane. It's a mood booster, too.
Right. And all of these positive emotions then have cognitive effects that are really relevant to e-commerce.
What do you mean?
Well, nostalgia can create what the article calls a golden glow around our memories. We tend to remember the good stuff and downplay any negatives.
Rose-colored glasses for our memories.
Exactly. And this can influence our online shopping decisions. We might feel more positive about a product linked to that feeling and maybe less concerned about the price tag.
So we might be more impulsive with our online shopping when we're feeling nostalgic.
It's definitely a possibility. And here's another interesting thing. Nostalgia plays a key role in how we see ourselves, our identity. It connects us to our personal history and reinforces who we are.
So it's not just about remembering, it's about reaffirming our sense of self.
Precisely. And that means people are more likely to connect with brands that align with those memories and that sense of self.
It makes sense. Brands that tap into our past are tapping into who we are at our core.
Exactly. Now, how does all of this psychology actually affect how we behave when we're shopping online?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Well, as we've discussed, nostalgia is a huge driver of buying intent online. Studies show that when people are feeling nostalgic, they place more value on experiences and feelings over logic and price.
Meaning, we might not be as concerned about getting a good deal.
Exactly. We might even be more likely to make impulse purchases. If we see something that triggers a positive memory, we might click buy now without even thinking twice.
I've definitely done that before.
You all have, and those good feelings also lead to more brand loyalty.
Right.
If a brand we have positive memories of brings back a product we loved, we're far more likely to buy it and keep supporting them.
It's all about that emotional connection. So how does nostalgia play into that journey from seeing a product online to actually buying it?
Nostalgic e-commerce campaigns are all about capturing our attention. They use familiar elements, whether it's a design style, a color scheme, or a catchy tagline, to trigger those memories.
That's the hook.
Exactly. And once they have our attention, they build on that emotional engagement, creating a desire for the product. Often, they'll subtly compare the positive feelings of the past to the possibility of recreating those feelings with a purchase.
So it's not just about buying the product, it's about buying the feeling.
Precisely. And this can create a sense of urgency, making us more likely to click buy now before we overthink it.
Makes sense. Now, how do marketers actually create these emotional anchors? Using nostalgia, what are some of their tactics?
Well, one really interesting area is the use of NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming.
Now, that sounds complicated.
It can be, but in simple terms, NLP helps marketers create predictable patterns in our minds. Think about an old jingle that instantly brings back a flood of good memories.
Like those catchy jingles from our childhood.
Exactly. By referencing that jingle or using similar language in their ad copy, brands can try to transfer those positive feelings to their current products.
It's like subliminal messaging, but with good vibes.
In a way, yes. And brands also use those multisensory triggers we talked about earlier. Visuals, sounds, even smells can be used to reinforce these anchors.
Smells online.
Well, not literally smells, but evocative language can create that sense in our minds. The more senses they can engage, the stronger the connection becomes.
So it's all about creating a rich, emotionally resonant experience.
Precisely. And consistency is key. Brands need to reinforce those connections across all their online channels.
Right. What are the steps an e-commerce company would take to make this happen?
First, they need to understand their target audience inside and out. They need to figure out what memories and references will actually resonate with their customers. This might involve analyzing data, looking at social media trends, and even conducting surveys.
So it's not just about randomly throwing up some retro images and hoping for the best.
Definitely not. It's a very calculated approach. Once they know what works, they need to choose the right sensory, triggers the images, sounds, and language that will evoke those feelings.
They're crafting a carefully curated experience.
Exactly. Then it's all about making those clear connections between the triggers and their brand or products. And finally, they need to reinforce those connections consistently across their website, social media, emails, and ads.
So it's a multifaceted strategy that requires a lot of planning. Now, how does this all play out on different online platforms?
Different platforms offer unique opportunities. On social media, shareable content that triggers those remember when moments does really well. You know, those posts that make you want to tag your friends and reminisce.
I see those all the time.
Right. Visual platforms like Instagram are perfect for vintage filters and those side-by-side comparisons of old versus new. TikTok loves those trends where people recreate old dances or challenges. And even emails can use nostalgia to remind people of past purchases or reference cultural events from their past.
It's amazing how creative brands are getting with this.
And then you have the website itself. The color palette, the fonts, the images, all of these things can contribute to that nostalgic feeling.
It's like stepping back in time, but online.
Exactly. And then there's the power of storytelling. Brands are using blog posts and website copy to tell those remember when stories, subtly tying them back to their current offerings.
It's like weaving a narrative that pulls people in.
Exactly. And don't forget about user-generated content. When brands encourage customers to share their own nostalgic stories, it creates a really strong sense of community.
People love to connect over shared experiences.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to some real-world examples. What brands are absolutely nailing this nostalgia marketing thing?
Yeah, let's see it in action.
Well, one great example is the re-release of Crystal Pepsi. For anyone who remembers it from the 90s, it was a huge hit of nostalgia and probably drove a lot of sales.
I remember seeing that all over my social media feeds.
Exactly. And then you have Nokia phones making a comeback with their classic designs, appealing to people who want something simple and reliable. The Motorola Razr is another great example, blending that iconic flip phone style with modern technology.
So they're combining nostalgia with innovation.
Exactly. And in the gaming world, classic consoles and retro games are hugely popular.
I can see why. It's like reliving your childhood.
And it's not just product revivals. Media and entertainment companies are in on this too. Disney constantly re-releases their classic movies and creates live-action remakes, tapping into that nostalgia for beloved stories. Vinyl records are making a comeback, and we're seeing tons of TV reboots and revivals.
It's like everything old is new again.
Right. And this trend goes beyond those obvious categories. Fashion websites bring back old styles. Car companies revamp classic models. Tech companies incorporate retro design elements. Even food and beverage companies release limited edition flavors or packaging that reminds people of the past.
Nostalgia is everywhere. So how do brands know if all of this is actually working? How do they measure the success of these campaigns?
That's a great question. They look at engagement metrics like click-through rates on nostalgic ads and how much people are interacting with nostalgic content on social media.
So are people clicking and sharing?
Exactly. They also compare the conversion rates of campaigns with and without nostalgic elements. Are people actually buying more when nostalgia is involved?
It's all about the data.
Right. And they gather feedback from customers through surveys and social media to gauge the emotional response. Are people feeling those warm, fuzzy feelings?
And in the long run, they track things like repeat purchases and brand advocacy. Are people coming back for more and telling their friends?
Precisely. And just like with any marketing strategy, testing and optimization are crucial. Brands will A/B test different nostalgic elements, try different images and taglines to see what works best.
It's a constant process of learning and refining.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, they need to know if it's actually profitable. They look at short-term sales spikes, long-term customer value, and the overall return on investment.
So it's not just about making people feel good. It's about making good business decisions.
Absolutely. Now, are there any downsides to nostalgia marketing? Anything brands need to be careful about?
Yeah, it can't all be sunshine and roses.
Definitely not. If the nostalgia feels forced or inauthentic, it can backfire. Brands that rely too heavily on the past might seem out of touch or lacking in innovation.
It's a delicate balance.
Exactly. Younger audiences might not connect with the references, and it's super important to be sensitive to cultural context. What's nostalgic in one culture might not be in another.
So it's about using nostalgia responsibly.
Exactly. It's about respecting the past while still being relevant in the present. And it's about building genuine connections, not manipulating people's emotion.
About using nostalgia for good.
Precisely. Now, what about the future? What trends are we seeing in nostalgia marketing?
Yeah, where is this all headed?
Things are getting really exciting. Technologies like VR and AR could create immersive, nostalgic experiences, letting people virtually step back in time.
That would be amazing.
Imagine being able to walk through a virtual recreation of your favorite childhood store. AI could personalize nostalgic content based on your browsing history and past purchases. Voice assistants could let you access nostalgic playlists or stories. And even blockchain and NFTs could be used to create digital ownership of nostalgic moments.
The possibilities are endless.
They really are. And how we experience nostalgia is changing too. Those cycles are getting shorter. We're already feeling nostalgic for the early 2000s.
Doesn't seem that long ago.
Right. And the pandemic has made us nostalgic for pre-COVID times. Plus, we have all these micro-generations with their own unique set of memories.
So nostalgia is becoming even more personal.
Exactly. And we're seeing it integrated with other marketing strategies. Brands are using nostalgia to promote social and environmental causes, to highlight sustainable practices, and to build online communities.
So it's not just about selling products anymore.
Right. It's about connecting with people on a deeper level.
This has been such an insightful look into the world of nostalgia marketing.
I agree. It's a fascinating and constantly evolving field.
This episode of E-commerce Psychology was powered by Growth Suite. Growth Suite helps you to run smart discount campaigns on your store. Test it for free on your Shopify store. Just land on the Shopify App Store now and test it for free. Now, I'd love for you to think about the brands and campaigns that have successfully evoked your own sense of nostalgia. Why did they work? What made them so effective? Keep those questions in mind as you continue to explore the fascinating world of e-commerce. Thanks for joining us.